No. It's just so obvious I can't be bothered.
Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we're counting down our picks for the best moments shared by Have I Got News For You's team captains.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
Number 10. Battle to the Bottom.
Like everybody else here, I've no idea.
The only show on TV that celebrates getting 0 points is Pointless, hosted by Alexander Armstrong. Although he is the most frequent guest Have I Got News For You host, he wasn't on hand for this episode. So why both team captains attempted to give the worst possible answers that they could is anyone's guess.
Ken appears to be a bit deaf. Tim saying, "Did you say come on, Tim?" And that curry makes you deaf.
A simple buzzer came from Paul just to break the silence during the odd one out round, whereas Ian gave the most convoluted guess that he could muster.
Well, that's the worst answer this programme's ever had. Ever, on anything. I think any answer, any in the history of man.
As Paul put it, it's the worst answer in the show's history, but Ian is quick to point out that his rival team captain didn't do much better.
And what was your answer? I don't know!
Number 9. Paul and Dean holding Mensch to task.
What's the other protest that's been going on peacefully?
Normally, it's Ian that goes on the offensive, taking some more questionable guests to task, if and when they need it. Paul is usually a bit more reserved, but in this episode, which aired around the time of the Occupy London protests, they both tore into a guest. Louise Mensch, former Tory MP, was probably expecting her flack from her team captain when she announced her disapproval over the protesters, but Paul fired the first shot.
They are against capitalism, except for the lattes.
So if they buy coffee, their opinions are worthless.
He was livid at her equating protesters' choice of coffee with hypocrisy, and only backed down to let Ian take over in his erudite way.
You don't have to want to return to a barter system in the Stone Age to complain about the way the financial crisis affected large numbers of people in the world, do you?
It's a rare moment of frustration from Paul, but certainly one he knew would be backed up by Ian.
Get out there and say capitalism is crisis and then enjoy everything it brings and revel in it and relish it.
You keep saying everything. They had a cup of coffee. That's not everything.
Number 8. Val Dunakin.
I'm just a what, says Blair.
Girl who can't say no.
Culturally, you wouldn't ordinarily think the rival team captains have many shared interests, especially not in the early days of the show. So no one was perhaps as surprised as Ian when he learned that Paul also had a shared appreciation of easy-listening pop singer and songwriter Val Dunakin.
Walk tall,
Yes. Thank you. I think we all know who he is.
After admitting it, Paul even started singing one of Dunakin's hits and then joined in as Ian began a rendition of The Marvellous Toy.
I never knew just what it was, and I guess I will.
The surprise extended to host Angus Deaton, who had to know more about Paul's knowledge of Dunakin, but Paul quickly returned to his disguise of indifference when noticing that he and Ian had newfound commonality.
The only thing I've ever found in common in our childhoods is an intimate knowledge of the best of Val Dunakin.
Number 7. Rebellion.
Isn't this a rare case of somebody resigning for the sake of the programme? Government.
In May 2002, during filming of Series 23, it was revealed that host Angus Deaton had been up to no good.
This has been one story of the week, isn't it? But the one I'm really interested in, Angus, is...
In an instance where commentators of the news became the news, the two team captains were quick to jump onto the scandal, making sure Deaton got the same treatment that anyone else who'd fallen foul of news coverage would. They admittedly planned ahead of the next episode filmed and brought the incriminating newspapers with them. Well, Ian did. Paul had his pressed onto a t-shirt.
To go to all that kind of effort is just unbelievable.
Unfortunately, more revelations would come out during filming of the following series, and Deaton was sacked before the 3rd episode. The captain's rinsing, whilst funny, was not without detractors. Stephen Fry has refused to appear as a guest ever since.
Angus was the best lover I've ever had, and you didn't pay her.
Number 6. Last week's show. If Paul was hoping for any backup from Ian, it would have been at this moment.
The good news is there is footage of the two robots
Yeah, we saw it
assembling
last
a
week.
teeth.
Upon seeing a clip about IKEA furniture being assembled by robots, he is convinced that they're repeating a segment from last week's show, looking completely bemused and reading the auto cue to confirm. It's only when a producer corrects him that he realises he's experiencing déjà vu.
It's not unknown to me because it was on last week's show.
to tell you, we actually didn't do this last week.
Oh.
The reason why Ian didn't even attempt to help him out wasn't because he knew Paul was wrong, but because of the fear that he might have been right, and was therefore developing memory problems.
I was sitting here keeping quiet because I thought, I've got Alzheimer's. But luckily it's you!
However, Ian is gleeful to report that it's actually Paul who has them. Number 5. Ian's acting debut. Paul Merton isn't an actor, but is a performer, regularly appearing on stage with his improv comedy troupe. This was in addition to his TV debut in Whose Line Is It Anyway, in which he would have to act out scenes, sans script.
Hello?
Oh, hi, Dad.
However, unlike his son Will, Ian Hislop is definitely not an actor, a fact which was proven beyond all doubt when he appeared in Greek drama Tu Nisi.
But why don't you just stay a bit? Where's he?
This revelation came up in Have I Got News For You, in which Ian explains that his casting came about as a budget decision to play the role in the series, which was an adaptation of his wife's book.
It's an adaptation of a novel written by my wife.
Who did you sleep with to get that job?
But it's not Ian's performance that earns this moment into our list, it's Paul's stunned reaction. Number 4. Ian still doesn't win. The final scores of the show often fall Paul's way. Despite being the editor-in-chief of Britain's most prominent satirist magazine, Private Eye, and therefore having to be up-to-date on all the current news, Ian Hislop rarely wins an episode of Have I Got News For You.
So, as his replacement, liable to give much the same performance and imbued with many of the same qualities, we're delighted to welcome a tub of lard.
Even though neither man knows who the show's scorekeeper actually is, Ian thought he was in with a chance when then MP Roy Hattersley pulled out of Paul's team at the last minute and was replaced with a tub of lard.
And this week's upwardly mobiles are Paul and the tub of lard with 20.
And yet, he still didn't win, despite Paul being at a very clear disadvantage, somehow securing a comfortable victory with his solo efforts and dairy.
It is getting rather sad when I can't win against Paul when he's accompanied by a tub of lard and the questions are in a foreign language.
Number 3. What Injunction? For a time, panel shows such as Have I Got News For You were under scrutiny not to break a court-mandated super injunction.
Now, he has decided that he will lift the injunction so he can defend himself.
These were taken out by celebs as a sort of gagging order for various misdeeds, preventing anyone from talking about who raised it and why, even if it was common knowledge. Naturally, this would be restrictive for topical comedians unless the celebrity lifted it, which is what Jeremy Clarkson did prior to this 2011 episode.
Did you know it?
Yeah.
Did you know it? Yeah, Ian told me.
Of course, Ian Hislop admitted that he knew about all the details, but Paul decided to make matters worse, claiming Ian had told him all the saucy details and implicating him as in breach of the super injunction. A very badly timed phone call seemingly sealed Hislop's story.
Clarkson said that one reason for dropping his super injunction was the cost.
Number 2. Merton is host.
Bookies are already offering odds on as to who will be replacing Angus on a full-time basis. 3-1 John Sargent, 6-1 Stephen Fry, 150-1 Michael Barrymore.
The aforementioned sacking of Angus Deaton prompted the then novel idea of using guest hosts. Obviously, this is now the norm, but at the time, producers had encountered a bit of a pickle, especially as Have I Got News For You was on its 3rd episode of Series 22, when the host's chair was vacated. At the last minute, Paul Merton stepped up, going from team captain to presenter duties.
If you win, you get to come back and host the show.
That's what's happening now.
Unsurprisingly, Merton took no time in suggesting Ian Hislop's team now had a better chance against Paul Merton's team, which he still referred to as his, despite supposedly being impartial. Surprisingly, Ian won that week. Merton's hosting allowed more interaction between the two, including a great outtake where Ian provided voices for Paul's miming.
The discovery of Saddam Hussein's email, which was hacked into by journalists on an American website.
Number 1. The Coalition.
Paul, could you ever find it in your heart to put your bitter rivalry to one side and form a coalition with Ian?
Yeah, all right.
In 600 episodes, Paul and Ian have only ever been on the same team once, for 10 minutes. In a special episode airing the day after the 2010 general election, the two team captains put their differences aside and joined forces. with Paul pointing out that Ian's chances of winning that week had just gone up.
Much better. I love sitting here. This is great. I'll sit here forever from now on.
Can I say I've always wanted this?
Yeah.
I've argued for it for years.
This was all in honour of the Conservatives forming a majority government with the Liberal Democrats, as the previous day's events had returned to hung Parliament. So, in a similar vein, host Joe Brand suggested they form their own coalition, which, arguably unlike the then incumbent government, didn't disappoint.
Now they're applauding pornography.
Pornography air crashes. This audience will applaud anything.
No wonder they couldn't come to a decisive decision at the polls.
I've got a dead kitten in my pocket.
Soundbites mirroring the Tory Lib Dem speeches and plenty of back and forth, or rather side by side, made for a truly one-off show.
I think I'll have him back on my side.
Should we do that?
Yeah.
And the coalition has fallen.
Will you be tuning in to the 68th series of Have I Got News For You? Or was your favourite moment decades ago? Let us know in the comments.
I wondered if she was wired. Didn't she was wired?
Don't think she was the only one that was wired.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out this other recent clip from WatchMojoUK and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.